Good morning, everybody. It is Texas Homer here with the one and only Ian Boyd and Izzy. Her sleep schedule got a little off track, and so now she will be our littlest co-host for today's live. First, make sure you guys sign up with the promo $1 for 7 days and 50% off your first year. So just go to InsideTex.com, join up. You'll get a heck of a deal. And today we're going to talk about what we learned about the Texas defense, what we learned about the Texas offense. This is all versus OU. And then what we think Quinn Ewers needs to do versus Georgia. And then, as always, your questions. You guys can take us off track. You can derail us at any moment. So you guys do your part. And I think a big thing, Ian, is, we've kind of heard like Texas is untested. I think defensively, sure. Offensively, we're not. We've been tested by Michigan and Oklahoma. They both have higher end kind of top 10-ish defenses. So I think we've been half tested, but I still think we can learn a lot from OU. So how are you feeling in that regard? Do you want to go with you want to start with defense?
Yeah, just speaking to that point also, wow, totally lost my train of thought. Off to a great start today.
We have been tested. We haven't been tested on defense, but we have been tested on offense and the allegations of lack of testing.
Yeah. I mean, we'll find out. I tend to think that's I feel like people overrate that sometimes. Like there's certain I think where that often shows up is more in style than like quality of opponent or like technique. Like sometimes you play a top team and they just play you differently than the other teams have played you. Where it's like, hey, what's this? They're not letting us have a free release off the line of scrimmage. No. Like, what's this? They're like not crashing in to stop the run on our play action because they actually trust their big guys to hold up a little bit. And like, why is this guy so much harder to move than the Colorado State guy? Or, there's a lot of different things like that I think show up. But I don't know if it's like the talent and quality, because sometimes you play these weaker teams and some of their players are pretty good. And sometimes the gap between like a G5 and like a blue blood is not always, it's very accumulative. It's like a little bit everywhere, Yeah. It's not like everybody on the field for, Mississippi State. Texas smoked Mississippi State. It's not like everybody on the field for Mississippi State like didn't belong there,
Right. I mean, their receiving core is one of the best in the SEC, actually. I've watched some more Georgia. I'm impressed by their offense. Texas red zone defense needs to be nails. Yeah, their offense is good. They fully utilize that offense too, right? They can give it to ETN, a bunch of the huge tight ends, and then also they have a solid receiving core. And they're getting some faster guys in there. Georgia's not that good at running the ball. That is true. And Williams was our best alley safety, so somewhat mitigated, in my honest opinion. So this is Bobby responding to how big of an impact will losing Derek Williams have? What do you think on that, Ian?
That's such a good question. I wish I had put more eyes on thank you, the Jason Jordan-Rebel and especially Jelani McDonald. I think Jelani McDonald has mostly played as a nickel in the last few games this season. But I want to see if he played any at safety versus Oklahoma and how he looked. Michael Taft and Andrew Makuba are playing really good. So I think it might be a real impact, but it's not. There's a limit to how bad it can hurt Texas so long as they don't have more injuries. Because they have two good starters, right? So,
yeah, he's only played 93 snaps this year.
Yeah.
Hook him from Wall, Texas. Indeed, a West Texas town. Okay, let's see here. After watching Georgia against Mississippi State, they gave up some deep shots. Yes, they did, and intermediate throws. Do you think Texas can throw against their secondary? So these questions are already getting into Georgia. What we can do is we can flip the flow around, right? Because our big third topic is Quinn. So we can kind of let's just talk Quinn versus Georgia first, and then we can kind of pull what we've gotten from Oklahoma. Okay, so yes, Georgia did give up a lot of deep shots. They gave up 50-50 balls several times to different guys, and they busted coverages a lot as well. And so this is what I was telling Ian before the show. Oklahoma also has a weak secondary, and Quinn didn't perform against them. So it's not always as simple as like they have a bad secondary, therefore we're going to be able to perform. So what do you think? Kind of what are your thoughts on Quinn's performance and what he's going to have to do going forward?
Well, I thought Oklahoma overplayed the pass pretty strongly against Texas. They played the 3 deep safety flyover defense. They were obviously their priority was we cannot let Texas run behind us on deep post routes, and we cannot let them get Quinn just flicking the ball to deep over routes over the middle behind our linebackers. So what that third safety in the middle of the field lets you do is he takes a deep crosser, and then you can still play a deep safety to either side over a post route. And like watching, like anytime you would get like the in zone view or an all 22 view of Texas versus Oklahoma, you'd see that Oklahoma was matching up all of Texas's deep routes extremely well. And that was part of the issue for Quinn. Part of the issue. And then Texas just ran them over because they were in 3 high and they couldn't stop the run. So good deal. The more I've seen, the more I think that Quinn he's still there mentally. Like I think mentally he's on a different level this season than he's ever been. That quick flip he had to Gunnar Helm where Gunnar Helm made a guy miss and then jumped over another dude. He had a free pressure, and Quinn hit that outlet so fast to beat the pressure. And there was a lot of times, like on the big misses that we all saw, where I was like, what is wrong with Quinn today? He knew exactly where to go with the ball, and he just made bad throws. So I think mentally he's like still like this guy's improved. He's ready to play at as high a level as anyone in the country. But physically, you could tell that he was back-footing the ball. He was bailing out of the pocket anytime he saw pressure, even though Texas usually just picked it up. And
yeah, he ran a couple times out of the pocket when it was not necessary.
Yeah. He self-sacked on the first play of the game.
Yeah.
He wandered outside like Cam Williams is picking up a blitzing linebacker and guiding him outside.
Yeah.
And then Quinn runs outside to where the Cam Williams was blocking the linebacker. And then he was like, whoops. And then he went back and then got tackled. He needs to be, I mean, it's obviously a comfort. To me, it seems, yeah. It seems pretty obvious that it's a comfort issue with his injury. Yeah. And like I imagine, like, have you ever had like a back injury or like something's like stiff, and you go and you play a sport, and anytime there's a chance for contact, you're like, nope. Or
yeah.
like if you're feeling good and you need to lift something, and you're like, I'm gonna get some help to lift this today. I don't want to. That's what it felt like watching Quinn, where he's like, I don't want to take a shot to the midsection. I don't want to get hit.
On his zone run, wherever he turns his back to avoid getting popped.
Yeah.
So he's clearly, and I was telling Paul yesterday that there's always got to be somebody like mowing right outside at this time. But I was talking to Paul yesterday, and I was telling him I was watching some Georgia podcasts, and they said JT Daniels also had an oblique injury a couple years ago. And same thing, like he came back, but he was still weird on it for several more games. So we got to see. But also modern medicine and football, a.k.a. Toradol, right? I mean, you can block those pain receptors if you got to. Here's the sack that we were talking about. Let's see. See, like Cam picks it up. It's just 24 makes him nervous. And then he self-sacks. So just not trusting the line there very much.
There's a bunch of other ones where he got out of the pocket successfully, but he didn't need to. And he had lots of room to step up and hit some throws down the field. So there's that too. Like every time that you could see Quinn hanging in there, they were usually covering things pretty good. But there's a lot of times where he just didn't even give it a chance because he got out.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to find out how many games JT Daniels missed before he came back, because that seems like we have a really good analog now for what to expect from Quinn.
I would have to go look. Well, or holler at a Georgia fan. They can probably tell us.
Where's that Skibbity McGee guy that was trying to talk trash? Maybe he would know.
Oh, yeah. Where's he at when we need him? So, yeah, that's the thing with Quinn. You can't have that performance versus Georgia, right? But what's tricky is this is weird. Georgia's pass rush is not like a Georgia pass rush. Like, they have a couple dudes, but it's not like scary. I think OU's pass rush is going to be more complex. What do you think?
Yeah, more complex. Also, they had some dudes at edge. Although maybe that's not necessarily where you even want to be good against Texas. Georgia has
the guards.
Georgia has, yeah, right. I'm trying to find, what was the name of that guy that was getting all the hype preseason that we all thought would be so good?
Michael?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been coming off an injury. He plays like, I don't know, like 20 snaps or whatever.
He has 0 sacks this season.
Yeah, he's been barely playing, I think, coming off of injury. So it's actually their Ingram Dawkins. It's their like actual true defensive end that leads the team with 3 sacks. But it's not crazy. It's not intense. They're like 80th or something in the country in sacks. Like, they're not finishing.
Now, that's actually normal for them. Like, they're usually pretty low in sacks, but they usually, their linebackers usually have a bunch. And they just don't.
They don't. There's
like so many things about Georgia this year where you're used to seeing A, B, and C, and they're just not there the same way this season. And one of them is linebacker. I'm sure they're good players, but like usually they have like a maybe not exactly like Anthony Hill, but someone that has a huge impact like he does, where someone that's like just like knifing through on blitzes all the time and inflicting negative plays. I just don't see that guy.
Yeah, they don't have it. And Smile Munden is out.
Did they say it? Smile?
Yeah, well, it's like I think it's to me like the end of Ishmael, so it's like Shmael, but he's going to be out. They announced good coverage guy. So here's the thing: so their coverage is not rated well, right? Mississippi State. I'm kind of bummed that Mississippi State exposed it because that just gave them like a whole week to be paranoid about it, and stuff like that. It would have been better if they would have been like, "We're doing really good here."
Yeah,
but. Secondary is a little bit suspect. Run defense isn't bad, but it's not great. It's like 20s, 30s. Like not like Georgia where they're always top 3 in the country in opponent yards per rush. They're not that anymore. So you can run on them, and you should definitely be able to pass on them. But we just got to, like I said, Quinn, sometimes it doesn't matter statistically. Quinn can just kind of have weird games sometimes. I don't know why that is.
Well, I think at this time at least it was that
he was hurt.
It's not feeling very good.
Yeah,
that makes so much sense on JT Daniels being iffy coming back. Our own Landon was saying like, man, an oblique is bad because there's just so much of your body mechanics throwing anything depend on that.
Yeah, you're a rotational athlete.
Yes, that's what I said.
Yeah. Where'd you get that sweater? I have no idea, man. This sweater's like 4 years old. You can see it's like cracked from like the dryer cycles. So
isn't it so nice? I'm wearing a long sleeve T-shirt for the.
I know, man. Fall weather. I woke up this morning. It was like 55-ish in DFW, and I was like, oh, this is nice.
Yeah, it's great.
Texas defense is considered elite, but I think after this weekend we will see how they stack up. Yeah, we'll talk about the defense here shortly. Let's here's what we can do. Let's hit our sponsor, and then we will talk a little bit more about the offense.
I'm just going to say, guys, you probably need a fiduciary financial advisor. And I've got the guy for you. His name is David McClellan with Forum Financial. He works broadly and deeply with his clients as a financial life coach. And he should know something about coaching because he won several national championships as a swimmer for the University of Texas. He specializes in financial planning and has contributed numerous articles to Kiplinger on the topic of retirement tax bombs. So contact David today to be your fiduciary financial planner and schedule a 1-hour consultation to assess your financial situations. The free consultation is available, so just give him a call. The number is 312-933-8823. That's 312-933-8823. His email is also in the description below.
Well, thank you, LC. Okay, so first thing we learned about the Texas offense versus OU, we have a dominant O-line, and it's still the number 1 ranked pass blocking efficiency offensive line in the country. And that doesn't seem to be changing, right? And then also another first round mock for Cam Williams. Dang, man, we need to keep our tackles. Flood's doing too good of a job. You can't just 1 year and out. We need you next year, man.
Isn't it wild that, like, remember those guys both committed to Oregon in a span of like a week?
Yeah.
And Crypto Ball left for Miami, and Texas was able to snag them both. And now they're like might anchor the best Texas team of the best or second best or third best Texas team of the century, potentially.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't want them to go, man. I don't want to losing our whole offensive line this next year. Not good if that occurs. Not tight. All right.
I'm not. Well, it'd be nice to have just one of them for Arch because you want to maximize every Arch year.
Yeah.
But I feel really good about Trevor Gooseby and Brandon Baker. So it should be okay.
We'll find out. All right, so this play call by Sark seems to have served to help buoy the quarterback's physical confidence in taking hits without falling apart.
Yeah, I think that's why Sark called that run. I think Sark was like, sees that Quinn doesn't want to step into stuff and his footwork is not as good again. And he's like, Quinn, you're on the football field. You got to be a football player. And that's I think that's why he called this. I also don't really think this is a read. I think they knew that Oklahoma would crash.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they just said, Quinn, you're taking it around the edge. And then
that doesn't feel good with oblique.
Does he give up his back there, or did he just get turned around a little bit?
I think he's avoiding the first tackle and it makes him kind of go sideways. So he's like dodging the block that Moore's on. See?
Yeah.
Oh, whoops. He's the block that Moore's on. That's all he's doing there.
You know, Sark has this tendency to remember Jaden Blue fumbles twice against Mississippi State. And then Sark makes him go out, be one of the guys that goes out and talks to media in the OU week. The next chance he gets. I think when Sark feels like it's a mental thing, then he's just like, okay, no, you're going to get Maverick back up in the sky. We need him to press through this.
Yeah, but Sark's done that historic. Remember, even with not for pressers, but remember Worthy fumbled in OU, and then he went right back to him. Jaden Blue's done that; he goes right back to him. Not DeAndre Moore. Matthew Golden makes the worst pass ever. He goes back to him versus OU. So it's like Sark also has this thing where he doesn't want you to sit around and think about it. He gets you another opportunity pretty quick.
He also even told the broadcast guys for the Kansas game or one of the games in 2021 that he thought Casey's thumb issue was more of a mental issue than a actual issue.
Dude, the fans were driving me nuts during the Casey Thompson saga, dude. He's such a leader. He's all that. It's like the guy that cleans out his locker and has tried to transfer 3 times is such a leader, huh?
I almost went insane. That was also right on the heels of COVID too.
Yeah, it was nuts.
I think a lot of us almost went insane, and for me that was the straw that nearly broke the camel's back, was just that whole saga.
Yeah. Hey man, I'll give it to you. The Thompson PR camp, really effective unit, but he's not who the fans thought he was. All right, so
I blocked a lot of people on Twitter in that year.
Dude, it was crazy.
Because they're all. I was like, guys, Casey Thompson is not the answer. He's not the next Vince Young. And then people were like, well, that's because you're a racist. If you're blocked by me on Twitter, it might be because you called me a racist.
there was that weird element too of it, but really it was just the average fan wasn't aware of what was occurring in the locker room.
Yeah.
All right, so Ezekiel's wheel and outside zone. You didn't give me a diagram, dude. Where's your Ezekiel wheel diagram? You worked hard on that in the past.
Could probably pull one up, but I don't think our viewers would appreciate the time.
That it was.
But you can see it on this play.
Okay, let's run it.
Here's something about. So the idea of Ezekiel's wheel is you get 3 routes going opposite the run.
Yeah.
You have, and the way Texas will do it is they'll have a guy go outside to run a wheel. Sure. Let me do this. Number 1, the first receiver counting from the sideline runs a glance route, which is like a deep slant. The number 2 receiver from the sideline, who might be in the backfield, runs a wheel route outside of him. And then they bring a tight end from the other side of the formation to run a flat route. And if you click that GIF again, we'll see it. But one trick to the way Texas was doing it is that it seems like, can you do it one more time? They do run the wheel on this one, right? Yeah. It seems like Texas anticipated that Oklahoma was going to cover all the routes and that their backside guy was going to cover Helm. And so I kind of wonder if they told Helm to convert the flat route into a block. Because there are a couple of these plays they ran. If you scroll down, he's usually ends up blocking, even though it looks like it's the...
On this one?
Yeah, do that one.
All right, so y'all pay attention to Helm at the bottom of the screen. He's the H-back right there.
Okay, that one is the other RPO that they run that looks like Ezekiel's wheel, but it's like a slant flat, and he always blocks on that one. And then this one.
Pay attention here.
Same thing. Okay. So maybe most of them were just called blocks. But they ran that RPO a bunch of times, and it usually just converted to normal split outside zone. And Oklahoma could not handle it at all.
They were nervous, man. It was making they do not want Ezekiel's wheel to complete.
Yeah. I mean, Texas torched them with it in 2022.
Yeah.
And they did some pretty good damage with it in 2023 as well. And you can tell Venables was like, look, just stay home on all the routes and we'll stop the run and we'll take our chances on their running backs.
Yeah.
And then Trey Wisner goes for 118. And so what can you do?
Yeah. It's he's just, man, how stressful Sark is to defend is really like, we don't appreciate it enough as just like fans of his team, you know? Years later, whenever Sark's gone and we're back with like a normal human offense, we're going to be like, what do you mean you don't have 6 different plays that could occur in one play? I mean, it's just a nightmare, dude. Like, it's just like the optionality, man. He can RPO it. He can run it here. He has weapons everywhere. He'll fake blocks, so you can't even trust that. It's just like this constant mental onslaught of hyper awareness, and it kind of just makes your defense rattled. All right, Gunnar Helm.
Sorry, let's say one more note on the offensive line.
Let's do it.
The fact that they're really good at outside zone is kind of a big deal. Because you watch I was watching Ohio State versus Oregon, and Ohio State kept wanting to run like duo tight inside zone when they needed to attack in the run game. And it was just hard because Oregon would like load the box and they have all these big transfer tackles. Georgia has built their program under Kirby Smart on just being able to smash straight ahead on tight inside zone duo type plays over and over again, and you just can't stop them. And then this year they're just not quite as good at it.
Yeah.
That style of play is just like you want size and physicality and low pads, and that's it. And then on defense, you stop it the same way with like you either commit numbers and take your chances against the pass, or you need size and length and low pads and physicality. Outside zone is way harder to defend because the gaps are moving. The defense has to play on a string. The linebackers have to fit properly behind the defensive lineman. So it's like, is this defensive lineman going to get reached, or is he going to stay here? And wherever he isn't, I need to make sure I'm there. And you just see teams all the time just get like badly creased on outside zone, but it's harder to execute. And it was until this year really that Texas has really gotten good at it under Sark.
Yeah, you need that instinctive back too that can really move sideline and cut. Like that was what Bijan did incredibly. Like outside zone, he would find whatever gap it was going to be that he could crease, and he would turn on like a 90-degree angle.
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
I think he was pretty good. I think Bijan actually, like, more I'm thinking about it, I think he's a pretty good running back, dude.
Yeah, it might have been.
Yeah.
That was actually, they were better at blocking it that year than they were in the 2 years after.
Yeah.
Because Ewers had installed it and they ran it decently by the end of 2020. And then in 2021, it was like Majors, Kerstetter, who else was Christian Jones, all these guys that were like older and had been running the scheme. Yep. And then for the last 2 years, Texas has been a lot less good at it because they were playing all these young linemen that didn't know how to do it.
Yeah, but for fans, whenever you see the whole line kind of step in one direction, they're all going left, they're all going right. When you hear outside zone, you'll hear like, what do they say? Like bears on parade. So whenever you see all these big boys just get up and start running left or get up and start running right, you're normally dealing with outside zone.
Yeah, if you go rewatch some of those Ezekiel Will clips, you'll see the line is really moving.
Yeah,
they're
going to the sideline.
Yeah, they're going to the sideline.
Yeah, and so what makes Sark so dangerous? Like, and this might be basic for some of y'all, or some of the viewers. There's two battles occurring here. So you have the run, and then if you tag it with an RPO, now there's another war or another battle in the war occurring out with the receivers in the secondary, right? So if you don't like what you see in the run game, now you can go in another battle. So if you're thinking about it of a battlefield, you have like two units, and you can kind of jump into whatever battle is advantageous for you currently. And Sark does that incredibly, because Sark can also do this, like he can make 3 battles occur. And that's where it's just like really hard as a defense to fight an offense that you don't know. Wherever they have numbers advantages, they're going to attack you. It's got to be incredibly stressful.
Yeah.
All right. Ready to talk Gunnar Helm?
Let's talk Gunnar Helm.
Okay. All right. Share your take. And then I want to hear let's see what AR is saying real quick. Do you think the Texas running backs can all read zone plays effectively? Or is it different? Wisner is good with zone, Blue is good with power, etc. So I would have to look specifically, because normally backs do have like a stronger one. And normally like so if it's a gap or a man scheme where you're just kind of looking for a single gap, it's normally better for your younger runners too. Zone can be a little overwhelming because it can end up going to multiple different gaps. But as far as like who's better in what situation, maybe somebody else in the chat has paid attention. I'll definitely watch it when I watch tape to see who's better at what. Have you noticed, is Wisner better in zone versus counters or whatever?
Well, outside zone and inside zone are very different for the running back, because outside zone is actually just like 3 steps lateral and then make a decision and cut and go. So like one of the guru of outside zone was this guy, Alex Gibbs, who passed away like in the last year or two. And one of his methods was that he would always teach the running backs reads to the offensive line. And so in the film room, the offensive line would know exactly when the running back was and wasn't doing what he was supposed to do. And that just created an unreal level of accountability. Like, you don't want the biggest, scariest dudes on your team to like know when you're screwing up and making them look bad.
Yeah.
They'll make sure you don't do it again. So I think Wisner Blue might be disadvantaged somewhat in just how athletic he is and twitchy, where he doesn't want to like just take the read and make it work. Whereas Wisner is just better at being patient and taking what the line is giving him on outside zone. So I think Wisner is better at it. I think Blue is getting better, but Blue is always like Blue likes to bounce runs. Blue likes to create different lanes, and Wisner is just like he's doing the 3 steps and plant and go deal, which is what outside zone really calls for.
Trying to find this Sark screen for you, fellas. All right, let's see. All right, so responding to this, can y'all break down the reverse out blind screen? We throw at least once big game. It's like we look tunnel screen left, but then turn our back and throw right to a blind to a spot. So this plays is what I'm talking about. Ooh. Right, Stone? That's what you're talking about?
Surely.
Yeah. It's getting picked up now. So like they're running it in the NFL now. They Texas State runs it. I mean, it's just
wow.
Yeah, it's called the Sark screen. This is Dan Casey talking about it. Brandon it Sark screen. So it's it's tough on a defense, especially because he's putting motion behind it. He's doing all this stuff to draw your eyes. Things are going that way, but teams are starting to stay home now on it.
So it looks like part of what makes it work is it looks like they're running outside zone to the right or zone to the right with an RPO on the backside. Yep. So then Quinn fakes the RPO to the backside. And so you're like, oh, it's outside zone. And you get going one way. Oh, wait, it's that backside screen. We got to get out there. And then he turns and he throws back to the outside zone side. And the offensive linemen, after feigning outside zone blocks, are releasing down the field.
Into a screen, yeah. Because he can throw to – this is Keelan, right? He can throw to this motion. So that's what he's saying. Keelan's looking back if he's going to get the ball. So he could pull right here, throw to Keelan, theoretically, but he doesn't need to. So the whole defense looking there. So this is just scary, dude. Because, like, think about your defense, right? He can hand it off to Baxter, or he can pull it right here. He can throw it to the motion of Keelan, who's 7, running back there, and then doesn't matter. Then he can just turn and actually throw it to Baxter. It's like, what do you even do, man? That's crazy. All right.
You know that, like, I wonder how much Brent Venables had some comment in his presser where he said, like, there was a specific play from a specific formation, specific hash that we knew Texas was going to run, and we practiced it 1,000,000 times, and they ran it 8 times successfully.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure he was talking about Ezekiel's wheel. Like, he had to have been. But these screens, like a screen like that, Texas throws that like once a game, right?
Yeah.
And how much time do you have to spend on with your guys practicing it to make sure when they throw it that it's not a touchdown?
Well, and what stops you from that point of, like, if your back has any throwing ability, then you just release Wingo down the field, and you can even have a technically like a running back pass on top of that. You can just, like, there's so many layers to how that play could test you. It's scary. All right, so here's your take, chat. I know you guys feel strongly either way here. So what's your take on Gunnar Helm that I think you tweeted, right?
Gunnar Helm is better than Jatavian Sanders.
Okay. All right. So what does that mean? He's more of an athletic specimen. He's more of a productive guy. He's a smarter player. He's a better blocker. He has better hands. What is he's better than Jatavian Sanders mean?
Yeah. I think Jatavian Sanders is a more agile athlete. But Gunnar Helm had a route. If you scroll down, it's the second clip here.
This one?
Yeah, it's the second one. Watch what he does. He's going to be lined up in line. And just the way he shook that Oklahoma safety, Robert Spears Jennings, number 3, he shows like the inside route and then breaks back out and is just wide open. He's so much quicker than I thought he was going to be from the last couple seasons. And I think he trained a lot in the offseason to try to gain some quickness for this stuff, from what Quinn has said after the Michigan game. But so he's
cooked that safety, man. He cooks them.
I think Jatavian Sanders was better at this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But Gunnar Helm is really good at high pointing the ball, slipping downfield, and most importantly, he's a much better blocker than Jatavian Sanders. And when you're a good blocker at tight end, that just sets up so much, because now every time you're in the box, their first thought is this guy about to block me? And then when he slips by you, it's nasty.
JT Sanders is a better player than Helm. Only thing Helm is better at blocking.
What does the tight end, Helio, what does the tight end do on like 70% of his snaps? He blocks. Like it's a really big deal that he's better at blocking than Sanders. So the fact that he has this big play ability in the passing game where he's clowning people on checkdowns and picking up first downs,
mossing guys,
mossing people, hurdling people, and then scoring routinely because he gets down the field. Like, if Jatavian Sanders is better, it's because he's better at things that Texas didn't even use. Like, I wondered when Sanders got to the NFL if he might become like an option route guru and just like destroy people in the NFL. But if he did, he'd be doing stuff that he didn't really do at Texas. That just wasn't part of the Texas offense. The stuff that is in the Texas offense, Helm is better at more of the things that make Texas better than Jatavian Sanders was.
Yeah, JT was a higher rated recruit. Absolutely. Yeah, man, I was bummed out with him falling down the draft boards like that.
He was a little bit short, I think.
Well, dude, his bench press, like,
yeah,
that was crazy. Like, it's like he basically it looked like he didn't train for the combine, which is not good.
The bad sign, the NFL doesn't like stuff like that. They want
that's not a good mental eval there. Helm
is 6'4". That's pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, he's from my town. I've watched him forever. He went to my high school. Helm isn't as injury prone as Sanders either.
There's that.
Yeah. Well, that's a jinx if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, that's okay.
Helm is a more complete tight end. Yeah, I think that's fair. Sanders' lack of blocking ability cost us dearly in the run game last year.
Also, not just the run game. Quinn separated his shoulder on a play where Jatavian Sanders had a really lousy block, and he got sacked a couple times against Oklahoma on plays where Sanders had really lousy blocks. I will say on both of those games, I don't think Sanders was 100%. But, I mean, man, Sanders getting injured was maybe the biggest reason why Texas lost to Oklahoma. Because they still tried to use him in a bunch of ways against Oklahoma, and he whiffed a block on the first play and got Xavier Worthy killed on a screen, and then they throw a pick. And then he gets lit up near the goal line and tips the ball up, and they get picked again. He got Quinn sacked a couple times. I mean, he was obviously just trying his best to grit it out on a bad injury. So I'm not trying to dog him. But
it always turns into this weird dichotomy. It's like, we must hate JT Sanders. It's like, no, we love JT Sanders.
Awesome. JT Sanders, I never thought Helm would be close to matching what Jatavian Sanders did. Yep. I was like, we're just gonna have to get some of that somewhere else.
Yep. What are Helm's draft prospects? I don't know, but they're improving. Yeah. Also, what I think too that was nice was Sanders, or what's better with Helm is people underestimate Helm, right? So they would kind of game plan Sanders and try to kind of take him away. Helm's been able to fly under the radar, and due to that, he's led the team in receiving yards versus OU and Michigan. So those are the two best defenses we've played, and he's been integral. Now, what'll be interesting, because Kirby Smart specifically called out Gunnar Helm by name. and said, hey, we got to pay attention to that guy. So now it's interesting. What do you do there? And of course, if you X out one guy, it opens up another guy, blah, blah, blah. But it will be interesting that teams now are kind of keying in on Gunnar Helm.
See, that's the thing, though. You can't really key in on Gunnar Helm because when they're in like 11 personnel, which they end up playing a lot this year because he's so good, you have to worry about Isaiah Bond or Ryan Wingo. You have to worry about DeAndre Moore in the slot. DeAndre Moore will cook you if you put a garbage player on DeAndre Moore. And then Matthew Golden or Silas Bolden.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, there's no – you're going to end up with, like, one of your weaker coverage players on Gunnar Helm.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, naturally. Because the reality is, too, you're going to double the faster players. So even though Helm is good, you can still run with him unless he hits you with one of those routes, though. Unless he gets you right here, safety. Wow.
See, that was like as good of a deal. Like Robert Spears Jennings is a really good safety. He's really good at playing around the box. He's exactly the kind of guy you match up on the tight end. And then it's like you tell that safety, like, you got the tight end. If he's blocking, you're entering the run fit. If he's running a route, you got him. Spears Jennings is a big guy. He's not going to get easily bullied, you would think. And he just got torched.
He had a bad game.
So, I mean, what are you going to – who's next, right? Who else on the schedule is going to match Gunnar Helm if Spears Jennings could be made to look that bad?
Yeah. The only thing that I think is interesting I've noticed with Helm, and this is just the problem being that big of a human, sometimes the blocks get a little sketchy for him, like, with holds and stuff, because his arm length is so long that if someone gets up into his chest, like collapses his arms, it's going to be a hold. Does that make sense?
Like that one that they called him on that was garbage?
Yeah. But it's like, say if your arms are that long and I push him back even a little bit, they can get into his chest. And so now he's like holding you, but he didn't try to hold you. It's just his arms are super long. If you had shorter arms, you could kind of brace yourself, and make sure they can't get up on. But his arms he's so lanky, dude, that it's easier to collapse his length. So that's just, he can't help that. That's a physical thing. That's just being huge and having really long arms. All right. Okay. So I think chat felt in agreement with you mostly. It will be interesting to see what he does versus Georgia with Kirby mentioning him.
He's going to be good. Like, I'll spoil the ending. Georgia, like every other team in college football, is not built to cover a really good tight end.
Yeah, dude, but you think with Bowers they would have like learned the secret sauce, They
barely even use Bowers though. Like you'd watch them and you'd be like, this guy's so good, but it feels like they should be using him more.
Yeah. Dude, Georgia would love him. Have you seen all their tight ends are white 6'4" guys. Like they're like making them in a lab. Like Gunnar Helm would fit perfectly. You got like Delp, Lucky Lawson or Lawson Lucky, Bowers, Jurasic. They're all like the same tight end. It's pretty crazy.
Yep.
All right. Let's hit the defense here. But first, y'all, a word from our sponsor.
This video is brought to you by Luxe Kitchen and Bath. Luxe has been offering high-end kitchen and bathroom remodels for 3 generations throughout the greater Austin area. With 5-star review after 5-star review on Google and Facebook, and an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau, you can put your faith in Luxe Kitchen and Bath's award-winning designers and skilled craftspeople to bring to life that dream vision of your special home. But that's not all. Luxe's all-star team provides full remodels, large additions, and even commercial build-outs as well. So call Luxe Kitchen and Bath at 833-358-LUXE today. Or visit luxekitchenbath.com to discover where quality meets luxury and begin the process of transforming your home. Get a free quote today by calling 833-358-LUXE. That's LUXE. Or by visiting luxekitchenbath.com. Link in the description.
Check it out. Link in the description. All right. What did we learn about the Texas Longhorns defense against Oklahoma? Now, this is where, admittedly, I don't feel that strong of like we learned. a lot because that was offense was horrific. But also doesn't mean you can't see what a good team looks like versus a really bad team. Because what's a good team going to do? A bad team only let them score 3 points. All right, on 3. I'm glad you guys are getting your ad money, huh? All right. So excelling, pressuring the quarterback. First things first. What did you think of our blitz package? We brought more heat than usual, right?
Yeah, why not? They did exactly what me and you were like, hey, they should line up with 5 guys on the line of scrimmage and just like make them guess about which ones are actually coming and all that. And they did exactly that. And when they do it from nickel with so they'll do it from nickel, they'll have like Colin Simmons on the field or Trey Moore, but Simmons has been a better pass rusher, obviously. And then Anthony Hill. And then Barron Sorrell or Ethan Burke will slide inside. And so you got Simmons and Hill on either side. And you can't really shade help to either very easily. And then they're still a nickel, so everybody's covered up. And then Benda or LaFau is the only guy on the back end, and he can blitz too. It's tough, man. Like Texas is going to face a good offense on Saturday night, and they're going to do this again. And we're going to see that it's not just Oklahoma that thinks it's hard to block this.
Yeah, and if you remember, if you watch Alabama, Georgia, Alabama freaked Beck out in the beginning of that game by doing a ton of this stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's what's also going to be kind of impressive. Come on, Homer. Jinxes are nonsense, homie. Yeah, I actually don't believe in them. I just know that the chat every time does. I'm playing to the audience, Chad. I'm playing to the audience here. All right, but that's the big thing with Beck. So they were putting, 7 guys on the line, dropping some of them. Sometimes they were firing, but that's going to be what's interesting for Beck, because Beck has yet to win the big game. So that's the interesting part too. They didn't win SEC championship. They didn't beat Bama this year. They're going to have a shot versus Texas, right? And normally I don't care about like the haven't won the big game narratives, but I do care that he can get a little shaken in those games.
I was watching him against Alabama this morning for the show. And like you said, Alabama like threw some stuff at him up front. And they also like disguised their coverages and caught him a couple times with their coverages where they would be in a different look than he thought. And you could tell he was like really shaken up.
Yeah.
Like they were like their timing was off. They looked so sloppy for like the first quarter and a half or 2 quarters of that game. They made all kinds of mistakes as an offense. And
then he starts pressing and throwing dumb picks.
Yep. But then he kind of figured it out.
Yep.
And he lit him up in the back end.
That's the thing about Beck. So we can talk like Georgia's offense has been sketchy at times, right? But the most important thing is like in Kentucky, they made the plays when they had to. Alabama, they made the plays when they had to. I know he lost at the end, but like I said yesterday, 99% of the time, that's a game-winning drive for Beck, what he did. And so that's the important part. You have to pay attention to Beck. He can be a little shaky, but as far as finishing games, you got to give him props. He gets his composure later on. The advantage here is, right, can you rattle him so much like Alabama that instead of getting 28 up on him, you get 35 up on him and you can survive if he comes back. Like that's going to be the trick.
Well, I don't if Texas gives up 30 plus points to Georgia, I don't think that's not a good formula for success.
Yeah. And I don't think they will. This is all right, dude. This is where it's like, I can feel so dumb or so right, man. I can see this game being by 3. I can also see Texas winning this by like 14 plus. Like their numbers are so weird and they're so inconsistent. I don't know what this team is.
You're talking about Georgia?
Yeah, I'm talking about Georgia.
Yeah. So, yeah, you're so used to them being like mauling on inside zone.
Yeah. Having
a good tight end, like a really good one. Having like at least one really dynamic receiver. And then having like the stud linebacker, the huge NFL defensive tackle you can't move. The NFL
secondary safeties that are going pro.
And it just feels like they're like just off the pace everywhere, except quarterback. Carson Beck is so much better than all the other guys they've had. Y'all hit me up with Drew Stetson, whatever. I don't care. Carson Beck is a much better player than Stetson Bennett, whatever that guy's name was.
Yeah. Georgia, they are. Drew, Georgia's what they are. You watch the film, trust your eyes. That's what I'm having trouble here with. I'm being haunted by the ghost of Georgia, And so like when I watch it, I'm like, I think Texas is a lot better than this team, like a lot, and like could beat them handedly. But also, I can get kind of swayed by the like, well, Texas, pass defense hasn't played anyone. I'm like, technically true, So it's like I'm in a weird spot with Georgia, but it's just this is a weird Georgia team. And you even talk to the Georgia fans, they're like, we don't even know what's going to go on. So I don't know. It's we'll see. Luckily, they're going to play on Saturday. If you guys didn't hear,
I'm more worried about Quinn and him being more comfortable than I am Georgia. I feel like if we get Michigan Quinn or Alabama Quinn, then Texas is going to win at home. If we get Oklahoma Quinn, I don't know. And if we get like, I don't know how many different Quinns there are. We've given different Quinns names in the past. We had like Mullet Quinn and
we have Quintavious. We have Quintavious too when he takes off running.
Quintavious. I don't think we're going to get Quintavious. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, we're not getting Quintavious.
I don't think we're going to get Quintavious, and I don't think we're going to get Mullet Quinn.
Yeah.
I mean, besides, he's not going to have a mullet because he can't grow in time. We're not going to get the doesn't know what he's doing Mullet Quinn. But we'll see. We'll see. He's usually up for it in the big games.
Yeah, that is one thing about Quinn, right? He's always kind of showed up. And I hope, man, whenever he was injured, he was able to kind of run some Georgia tape during that period. This team is better than our Natty Run team. All right, well, this is coming from somebody that was on the team during the national championship, so that sounds good.
I was almost like, oh, let's settle down, and then I saw it was Drew.
Yeah, it's like the one guy that would know is probably the guy that was on the team.
Solid authority. But I will say, I don't. The thing. I think he's probably right. I'm thinking through it. The one thing that Natty team had that was so crazy was the
Vince Young,
the 5 first, second round caliber defensive backs.
Yeah,
and this team is not. They're much better in the secondary, but they're not there. But then I'm like, but
I think Drew too, because
linebackers are a lot better than the linebackers on Drew's team. Drew knows Drew's not going to be offended by that. The offensive line is as good. The receivers are way better. So,
yeah,
he might be right.
Well, and also Drew told us last week when we were talking with him that the depth on this team is better.
Yeah,
and Brian Robinson said the same thing. So that's 2 players on the national championship team that says we're deeper overall in this group. Yeah, hopefully, Drew, man, you would know. I don't, but I'm scared to be hurt again, Drew. Texas is this year's Georgia. Georgia's team is different than past. They have no run. They're D has holes. This is what I've also been thinking about is I've been like, man, it doesn't seem like there's that elite team. And I'm like, wait, are we the elite team? It's like, man, Georgia and Alabama aren't around. It's like, wait, are we Georgia and Alabama? It's like, that's kind of like the confusing switch that we're going through now that there's still tentativeness to be like, hey man, we might be really good.
I broke down Oregon, Ohio State yesterday from my Substack, americaswargame.substack.com.
Check it out.
And I haven't written it yet. I haven't written it up yet, but Ohio State is really, really good, but they are not. I think Texas is the best team I've watched this season.
Yeah.
It's not Georgia. I mean, maybe they'll come into DKR and
Georgia has the highest ceiling as anybody. They're just not.
No, I don't think so. I would disagree.
They do. I would say, well, no.
Not unless those wideouts have got to be real good for that.
I'm also not counting the Big Ten at all in my evaluation. I was just purely thinking SEC. But Texas has the highest ceiling. Who do you think has the second highest then when they're playing at max?
I don't know about second highest. I'm going to throw a team out there. I'm just going to drop takes until the comments catch on fire. I'm starting to think that LSU is going to be a team that is like no one wants to play in the playoffs.
Okay.
Because their
I haven't
defense,
watched them enough.
now that they finally got Perkins out of there, their defense is really starting to come together, and it looks more like an LSU defense. It's not there, but it's a lot better. And Nussmeier and their passing game is really scary.
Yeah.
Like that throw he had to beat Ole Miss. It's like you can't defend that.
Yeah, my league-wide like evaluations are always kind of tinted because I really just deep dive on the team that we're going to play. So I know like who we've played really, really well, but I only have like this cursory knowledge of the teams we haven't played. I just watch them like, on Saturday, but it's a little different than like doing a true breakdown. I think Carson Beck, when he's on it, can win games, and like that's where I'm worried. Like if Carson Beck's at full steam and Quinn's being weird, that's where you run into problems, I think.
Have you noticed that Carson Beck very much resembles Romero from Escape from New York?
No.
You know the guy Romero that's like his face is painted white and his hair is up, and he like brings out the president's finger and he's like hissing at the helicopter,
I'm trying to bring it up. That's so the audience can see.
He ends up getting knifed by this girl. If you haven't seen
It's a very kind.
Oh, he passed away. That's sad.
Yep.
Yeah, tell me that's not Carson Beck.
He does have a kind of strange lackadaisical thing. What I thought was interesting is I was hearing on a Georgia podcast that remember when we were having this problem with Quinn early on, where Quinn's like kind of a quiet guy and wasn't really being vocal. And Quinn's grown way past that. But that was kind of our fear that Quinn was going to be like chill guy and not do leadership. They're still having that issue with Carson Beck as a redshirt senior, like of being fiery and talking to the team and like, you just got to know my personality, dude. And they're even like, hey man, we need you to like be more vocal of a leader. I think that's interesting. But that was a really nice comparison.
As soon as I realized that, it's just been so hard for me to believe that he'll ever win a championship.
That's your elite evaluation skills right there.
But he was and then he was so bad to start against Bama, and then he was so good. I wonder if he'll be ready this time when he's in DKR, if he'll be like, okay, I've been through this, I'm okay, or if he'll get rattled again. I really don't know.
Yeah. I mean, in Texas, like we have an intense environment now. And it also, if you're not paying attention, we'll do the smoke screen and you'll be blind in the third quarter. I don't know how that's allowed. I still don't understand how you can just release that level of smoke into the stadium. And all the kids in the student section just look like they're in like a World War II haze.
Or Vietnam or something.
It's literally Agent Orange. All right. And so what we also learned to wrap it up, still stout and run defense. Do you think we're really able to are you doing this on like gap soundness? How do we really know? Because this team can't rush.
When teams run the ball, when teams double and try to go downhill on Texas's defensive tackles, they don't get rocked back. They stand their ground.
So that scales.
Yeah. Generally. Georgia's usually as good at getting movement on double teams as anybody. This year, maybe not quite. I think Texas will play their match quarters in this game and stay too high and dare Georgia to run. Because Georgia doesn't seem that interested in running this year.
They're not. They're like 100 something in the country in running. Like not stats, like how many times they call runs.
Yeah. So I would play too high and let them make them show that they're still Georgia. I don't know if they can beat, and I don't know if they can match if we get a good Quinn, if we get crew cut Quinn and we play good match quarters defense and don't let them score
Yeah.
in the passing game easily. I don't think Georgia can match Texas running the ball.
113th in the country rushing plays rate.
Wow.
And so they're 65th in the country in yards per rush. So they rarely run, and they're not very good at it. They have two really good backs, ETN, of course, and then Frazier. Good backs. It's just what I think the problem is they're just not emphasizing it enough in practice, and therefore they're not that good at it. And so that's what's going on. But their run game is not that great.
It seems like finally having a really good quarterback is almost working against them.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's working good in this regard. Like,
oh yeah, I mean,
in the country and passing, like they can pass for real, but you're right. It's hurting their balance and being overall a good offense.
I don't know if it's going to scale because they don't have Adonai Mitchell or Ladd McConkey or Brock Bowers.
Right. And their receiving core is good. It's just not an elite core.
Yeah.
I mean, they have good guys, experienced guys. Carson Beck can hit them. But there's no like that guy puts the fear of God in me type receiver right now.
They've got so Dominic Lovett is his favorite guy.
Yep, most targeted.
He's pretty solid, but he also works in the slot.
Mm-hmm. Arian Smith is their deep threat.
Arian Smith and Dylan Bell are their up-and-coming young athletes. And those guys are if they end up like beating Texas and having an amazing season, it's going to be because Dylan Bell and Arian Smith torch teams in the back half of the schedule.
ETN is very effective as a receiver out of the backfield. That's very true. ETN's a good back, man, but he's an outside runner, because if he's speed and explosive, don't let him get to the edge. Luckily, we have good lateral quickness.
It's crazy they don't have their normal battery of future NFL backs to just plow downhill.
Yeah. This game comes down to Quinn setting his feet and making the throws that makes him special. Last week, he looked like Quinn of last year. I agree, but I think it's just nerves and taking a hit and being out again. Yeah, that was the part that frustrated me as a first-round quarterback. Like, set your feet, man. Like, that's annoying me that we're still having to have that conversation. And that's not pure injury. That's just like, that's mechanics. You set your feet as a quarterback, whether you're hurt or not hurt. So that part's annoying me that I don't want to see regression like that. Yeah, even if it's quote unquote rust, whatever. You've been a quarterback since you were 6.
He's right. I should have mentioned London Humphreys too. That guy's deceptively fast. London Humphreys.
That's the problem. He's this white kind of unassuming kid, but he runs a 10.6.
Yeah, he's fast.
Yeah, and he's 10.6 speed at 6'2", 200. And they poached him from Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
What'll be interesting now is does Vanderbilt keep getting all their best players poached, or can they keep them home if they keep winning?
Yeah.
I mean, Saban stole their tackle.
Yeah.
Georgia stole their best receiver. Like, they get their guys stolen all the time.
Yep. They're like the thing is that they are recruiting in the South. And so they're just like plucking up all these like 3-star Southern kids that are those kids are different than like 3-star kids somewhere else.
Yeah. I suspect Georgia will try to blitz Quinn a lot. They saw how the sack in play 1 against OU affected him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if he's still trying to run out of the pocket and do weird stuff when he could just sit. I mean, the thing too is like, trust your line, Quinn. You have 2 probably first-round tackles. Jake Majors is 90 years old. The guards are a little bit sketchy. I get less and less impressed with DJ Campbell the more I focus on him in film.
Yeah, I have my buddy Keegan Renault that covers Oklahoma a lot. He told me going into the game, like, DJ Campbell's the guy they'll target. He's the weak spot.
Yeah, he's just like
he should be back next year though, at least.
He's just not very intuitive. Like, there's some like plays that I would watch where like there's a guy he could clearly block and he's just picking the wrong guy. Not even assignment. It's like after the mix happens, and it's like you could clearly just work up to this guy and it would be benefit. He seems to be very rule based and not able to kind of free flow with it as much whenever things kind of break down. But
it'll come. He's only in his 3rd year still. So
you know what, DJ Campbell, and I'll stick to this. DJ Campbell would be the greatest halfback this world has seen. and I stand by it 1,000%.
Halfback?
Oh, sorry, half H-back. Halfback would be awesome. No, H-back. He'd be the best H-back this world has ever seen. Because if you watch his hands from high school, he was like running routes as a tight end, not in game, but like messing around in some footage. He has awesome hands. He's quick. He can block. I think he would be an elite H-back, like unstoppable. So now you got something to chew on, fans. Think about him as H-back. Ian, I need 3 articles on that potential as well.
Okay. I'll be right on it.
Good stuff. All righty, guys. That's it for today. Thank you for hanging out. Tomorrow, Ian will be on with Joe and Justin at 9:30 a.m. They'll also be talking, I'm sure, some recruiting stuff too. So if you guys have your recruiting questions ready for Justin, he'll be able to answer them. And then it'll be a fun week versus Georgia. I won't see you guys again until I'll see you guys on Saturday post-game. So looking forward to it, y'all. Hopefully it is a happy post-game. I think we have the potential to do so. So fans, Ian, thank you very much. Izzy, have a good one.
And say goodbye.
Yeah, let her say goodbye to the people. Hey, goodbye, cutie. Hook 'em. Bye-bye.